This is lesson 7.3, accounts receivable turnover ratio. This is found on page 211 of your book. In this section, we are talking about the accounts receivable turnover ratio and the book value of accounts receivable. So, appliance center or businesses need cash to purchase additional merchandise to sell to customers and pay for operating expenses. So if a business lets customers purchase on account, they need those accounts to be paid in full promptly, or they will not be able to purchase more inventory to sell to the customers. So one way to analyze if the collection is efficient is to figure out this accounts receivable turnover ratio, and that is the number of times the average amount of accounts receivable is collected upon during that specified period of time. The accounts receivable turnover ratio is calculated by dividing net sales on account by the average book value of accounts receivable. So if we look here, we are going to take our total accounts receivable minus our allowance for uncollectible accounts. Remember, we figured this out by taking probably a percentage of our net sales, and then we will figure out what our book value of accounts receivable is. So in the beginning, we had $50,329.14 in total accounts receivable. Subtract our allowance for uncollectible accounts, and now we have our book value, which is our allowance for $48,912.31. We're going to calculate the accounts receivable turnover ratio. To do this, we'll compute the average book value, which we did previous to this. So we're going to take this $48,912.31, and that is our beginning book value of accounts receivable plus our ending book value of accounts receivable, right here, $44,098.91, divide by 2 to get our average value, average book value of accounts receivable. Okay, and then we will take our net sales on account, divide that by our average book value of accounts receivable, and that will give us our accounts receivable turnover ratio. So this 7.1 times this ratio means that the appliance center turns over or collects its average accounts receivable, which would be this amount of money. We collect this amount of money 7.1 times during a calendar year. So if we take that number divided into, or if we take 365, the days in the year, divided by our accounts receivable turnover ratio, we will get that average number of days for payment. So it, on average, takes a customer 51 days to pay their payment. So we need to figure out, is that number going up? Is it going down? We obviously want them to pay in that 30 days we want them to pay in 10 days if we're doing a 210 net 30 term. But if they're not paying within that 30 days, we need to do something to get back to them paying. So we might do some different things like sending statements more often, requesting payment. We might not sell an account to any customer that hasn't paid within 30 days. We might encourage more cash sales and fewer sales on account. And we might conduct a more rigorous credit check on new customers, because we really need to make sure that we're getting paid within that term of 30 days. So you can tell here that in these years, their ratio has gone up and down and up and up and up and up, and the days of payment have kind of gone down and up and down, so we just need to kind of be watching this throughout the years and knowing, do we need to take those steps that we just talked about in order to get better at collecting on our accounts receivable.